Look, tech companies they're now becoming the most powerful lobby group in the United States as they fight this antitrust claim that has got to take place. Somebody has got to have the courage to pull the trigger. Tell me about it. We got about a minute left. Tell me about the antitrust claims and how these folks are spending billions of dollars to try to shut it down.
Right. Big tech, Facebook, Amazon, all these groups, they're now the #1 lobbyists in the United States. They're giving both to Democrats and Republicans, just really spreading money across the board to avoid regulations, because so far they've managed to get through without having any real restrictions placed on them. That's what allowed them to grow into these monopolies, to where they have these massive platforms and they say, well, if you want to use our platform, you also have to use our this program, this one, and this one. Much like, the best way to describe it is back in the golden days of Hollywood, where the movie studios also owned the movie theaters and would only play their movies at the theaters. That was the monopoly that got broken up then. And that's essentially what we're seeing with tech giants who don't want any regulation.
And the politicians on both sides, Democrats and Republicans, are just got their hands out. They got their pockets open. Yep. They're just getting swamped with cash. Anyway, thank you for joining me, Farron. This is a story that is just really starting to edge to the public's attention, to where they know we have to do something about the antitrust problem with the tech companies. Thank you for joining me. The Boy Scouts of America has been inundated with more than 90,000 claims of sexual abuse, and time's running out for the organization to answer those claims. I have Steve Babin with me, who is smart enough to get out in front of this, who figured out that something was way wrong with the Scout organization. Steve, can you explain what these claims are alleging and how far back do they go?
Yeah, Mike, these claims are alleging the most egregious thing there is. It's child sex abuse. And they go back to the 1950s or the 1940s. This is one of the most trusted American institutions that we've ever had, and we trusted this institution with our kids. And what we have found out is this has gone on for decades and decades and decades at numbers that are large enough to have the biggest sex abuse case in history, with over 90,000 victims filing claims in the Boy Scouts bankruptcy.
Well, what caused this? I mean, it seems like a sudden flood of new allegations that nobody's talked about. Of course, we've seen it again and again with the media. It was like with the Catholic Church for so long. The media, corporate media, would not take on the Catholic Church. Same way with, the whole Weinstein kind of stories. The media was terrified by it because the media, the corporate media, will never stand up on issues that they should stand up on if there's any pushback. So I'm wondering, is it part of that caused this sudden flood of new allegations? Was it just the media, again, not doing their job?
I mean, I think it's a number of things. I think, yeah, the media was not doing their job. That's one thing. I think that this is a case where it's young boys that were abused, and it's a case that, I've got over 1,000 clients, and this is a case that my clients didn't want to talk about. And what happened is there were sufficient cases filed. There were enough cases filed across the country where victims saw others stand up and have the courage to speak out against what happened. And, when there's more than one and there are many, it's easier for those victims to stand up. And that's what we had here, I think, is we had, a lot of men with the courage, and women with the courage to stand up about what happened to them and to speak the truth and to, explain that the Boy Scouts didn't do what they were supposed to do. They didn't take care of our children, and it was a result of a epidemic failure from the top down, without having proper policies or procedures in place, or safety procedures, or really anything. For many, many years, they had really nothing in place to safeguard our children's lives when they went with Boy Scouts camping and on trips that were overnight.
No. What I wanted to get at, Steve, is I think back, and when we analyzed the whole Weinstein awful story, we found out that, for example, MSNBC was even NBC unwilling to do a story when there was overwhelming information. And they refused to do it because of their political contacts and because of the financial involvement. How was this one of the most prominent organizations in the country? How did they manage to get by without having anybody looking at them seriously for so long? What happened here?
I mean, I think that it most certainly was swept under the rug. I know that I had clients that told members outside of their house about what happened, and there was no media on it. There were no court cases on it. Somehow there was the political power behind the Boy Scouts that enabled this to stay swept under the rug and to be kept quiet for decades.
So you're heading up Ann Andrews. That, by the way, I will tell you, the team that you've put together, Ann Andrews, superb lawyer out on the West Coast. She's put together a program in bankruptcy, even though the Scouts they're trying to hide behind bankruptcy. Ann Andrews figured out a way to make these people responsible anyway. What you're trying to do in bankruptcy court, that's kind of a new thing, the way you're trying to handle this, isn't it? Isn't it something going forward could be important to all claimants, not just in the Boy Scout case? What's your take?
I agree. I think it is. I think Ann Andrews is a brilliant lawyer. I think we've got a great team that she's put together with Adam Slater. It's the Coalition of Abused Scouts for Justice, and that's essentially the leadership group in this bankruptcy. And those are the lawyers that are going to get this case settled and get equitable, just compensation for all of the victims. But what she has put together and the team that she's assembled who sit in a leadership position in this case, there's really a lot of deep knowledge and wisdom and skill sets that come to the table to hopefully get some compensation on a quick timeline for our client.
Yeah, I'm afraid people might hear about this case and say, well, it's in bankruptcy, I can't do anything. With what you're doing and Adam Slater and Ann Andrews, and really a great leadership team that you have there, you're changing the way. I mean, look, you've got Lloyd's of London, you've got some of the biggest insurance companies in the world that have insured the Boy Scouts all the way back to the 70s. So just because the Boy Scouts said, okay, we're going to move into bankruptcy court, that doesn't mean the fight is over. It means it's just really started. Isn't that what's happening here? The fight has really just started.
I mean, the fight is really just started. I think the Boy Scouts have made clear that they know they made mistakes, but everyone's got to come to the table to make this settlement happen. That means the insurers, that means the local councils who have billions of dollars in assets that need to help fund this victims' compensation fund. But this has just started, and there are many parties that need to come to the table in order for us to get our clients just compensation.
Steve, thank you for joining me. Put your team, make sure they stay with us. I'm very optimistic you're going to get a good result. Thank you for joining me.